Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 0 of the Hit List podcast. I'm your host, Jason Ramirez, and this episode, we're not going to be discussing any films today. I'm just going to tell you the background of this show, why I made it, and my goal for it. And you're also going to learn a little bit more about the podcast, how we're going to do it. So a little bit of background for you guys. My name is Jason Ramirez. I'm an independent filmmaker, and I'm also a videographer and video editor. And I'm also on my last semester at University of Maryland College Park. So the reason why I started this podcast is because when quarantine started back in March, I thought it was the perfect opportunity to watch all the movies on my list, at least a few of them. But a couple weeks into it, I found it very difficult to watch new movies and new shows. So this podcast, the idea for it has been in the works for the past couple years actually, and I just thought it was the perfect time to do it now. So during the summer, I invited my friends to do the same challenge to watch new movies on the list and come here onto the show. So the purpose and goal of this podcast, I don't want to be afraid to watch new things. When I say I'm afraid, I don't mean I'm fearful for my life. I just don't like wasting my time. If you know me, you'll know that one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is wasting my time. It doesn't matter if it's in relationships, in class, or with job opportunities. And that's the thing that's kind of an unhealthy thing when it comes to new movies, because I spend more time choosing what I want to watch than actually watching them. And that's what I want to change now. Another aspect, as a filmmaker, I want to learn new ways of storytelling. And what other way of learning than by watching movies from some great directors? So I pretty much know how to do the hero's journey, but I want to see how other people have done it. So yeah. And not all the movies that we're going to discuss has to do with the hero's journey, but there are a couple that do. But that's about it. That's all I can say about that. And the third thing about this, or at least my ultimate goal, is to encourage my listeners to do the same with their watch lists. I know there are a lot of people who have a lot of movies and TV shows they've never seen on their list on Netflix or Hulu or wherever they watch their film, media, whatever. I know it can be tempting to rewatch The Office over and over again because you know it's going to happen. I also want to challenge you to do the same thing, to watch a new movie, to watch a new TV show, because you never really know if your next favorite film is just one click away. You never know unless you try. So I'm going to move on to the structure of the podcast. So the way it's going to work, the guests for this first season are my friends from varying backgrounds and careers. So there are a couple performers, a couple directors, one software developer, basically people from different aspects in careers. I did this on purpose because I want to get a different perspective on each of these films and just learn what their take is on these movies that we watch. And also because I don't have the clout to invite celebrity guests on the show just yet. So the way it works, we watch 2 movies each episode. One movie from my list and another from my guests. So before we actually record the show, we both decide which movies we want to watch, and we'll watch both of them on our own time, and then we take notes for our discussion. And when we begin the show, we start with the guest film, and then on to my film. And in the end, we ask each other whether we found these movies a hit or a miss. And by the way, thank you, Jessica, for suggesting that little tidbit for me. As far as scheduling goes, episodes will air bi-weekly until December for our season finale. I did to warn you, there are a couple of errors in my audio. The reason why is because I'm more experienced in video editing than I am in audio editing. So I was learning how to edit audio with each episode. So there might be a couple errors, not too much, nothing major, just a shuffle and a beep a couple times an episode. But they get better with each episode. As I learn how to record better and as I learn to edit better. So I've been learning as I've been doing this, so bear with me. Might hear a couple of snuffles, but it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be alright. So I distribute my podcast through Anchor, so you can listen to it on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public. So now you know. And that's it for today. It's a very short segment. I just want to do a short little introduction / prologue into this podcast. You can follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at The Hitlist Podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at _hitlist_podcast. Until then, cross off a new film from your list.